At 0400 local time on February 24, 2022, a Russian armored column crossed the border heading due south toward the Ukrainian capital. This was not a standard tactical formation. It was a 40-mile-long river of steel consisting of thousands of main battle tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, self-propelled artillery, and supply trucks. The operational calculus was built entirely on speed and shock value. A 72-hour decapitation strike designed to overwhelm defenses, seize the hostile center of gravity, and conclude the campaign before international sanctions could even be drafted. For the men inside the lead vehicles, the mission brief read like a victory parade. They had overwhelming numerical superiority, absolute armored dominance, and the confidence of an army that believed it was invincible. But the sheer scale of this 40-mile behemoth was about to become the precise mechanism of its own destruction. The operational planners had designed a hammer to smash a pane of glass, completely failing to realize they were actually swinging that hammer into a swamp. The world watched in awe as satellite imagery revealed the seemingly unstoppable armada, assuming Kyiv would fall within days. Instead, they were witnessing the opening phase of the most catastrophic logistical failure in modern military history, where the greatest advantage a modern army possesses would instantly transform into a massive, immobile death trap. Before we continue, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. The first cascading failure did not come from a guided missile or an artillery barrage, but from a mundane piece of logistics that nobody in the command structure had bothered to inspect. Moving thousands of heavy military vehicles across a country requires functioning tires, specifically tires properly maintained and exercised to prevent dry rot. Because of rampant corruption and years of deferred maintenance, the Russian logistics trucks were rolling on cheap, degraded rubber that had been sitting stationary in motor pools for months. As the column pushed off the paved roads to bypass initial resistance, they hit the rasputitsa, the infamous seasonal Ukrainian mud that turned solid ground into a heavy, suctioning soup. When heavy military trucks carrying tons of ammunition and diesel tried to muscle through this mud, the neglected tires simply shredded off the rims. A multi-million-dollar air defense system or a heavily armored personnel carrier is instantly rendered combat ineffective if the transport vehicle carrying its fuel blows a tire and sinks to its axles. When a lead truck died in the mud, the vehicles behind it could not go around because the shoulder of the road was just as treacherous. The invaders were forced to abandon cross-country maneuvers entirely and funnel their entire 40-mile armada onto a single paved highway, transforming a dynamic invasion force into the world's longest traffic jam. Because the lead elements were blocked by broken-down trucks and the rear elements were continuously pushing forward, the entire column ground to a halt. Thousands of engines sat idling on a highway, burning through their internal fuel reserves while moving exactly 0 miles per hour. The supply trucks carrying the replacement diesel were trapped miles behind the combat units, physically unable to bypass the gridlock of parked tanks and infantry fighting vehicles to deliver the fuel. Within 48 hours, the mechanized spearhead of the Russian army was running on fumes. Soldiers were faced with a brutal choice: turn off their engines and freeze in the sub-zero temperatures, or keep idling and completely drain their fuel tanks, turning their heavily armored combat vehicles into nothing more than very expensive, unmovable metal bunkers sitting unprotected on an open, elevated roadway. While the invaders were freezing and starving inside their immobilized steel boxes, the Ukrainian defenders recognized exactly what this logistical paralysis meant. Instead, they exploited the enemy's complete lack of mobility by deploying small, highly agile asymmetric warfare units, most notably a specialized drone group known as Aerorozvidka. These units consisted of local software engineers, drone hobbyists, and special operators who navigated the treacherous muddy forests on silent electric quad bikes. They possessed the ultimate advantage in this specific environment: total mobility. Moving under the cover of darkness, these three-man teams slipped through the dense tree lines parallel to the jammed highway, completely bypassing the forward-facing armor of the Russian tanks. They operated completely off the grid, carrying modified commercial heavy-lift drones packed with anti-tank grenades. The massive conventional army had absolutely no protocol for fighting a handful of ghosts in the woods armed with consumer electronics and military-grade explosives. The hunt was officially on. The Russian commanders, sitting in the middle of this static metal river, quickly realized their armor plating was designed for conventional engagements, not vertical drops from commercial quadcopters. The Ukrainian drone operators had a very specific, ruthlessly efficient targeting protocol. They did not waste their limited payload on the heavy frontal glacis armor of a main battle tank. Instead, they piloted their modified consumer drones directly over the thin top armor of the lead and trailing vehicles of a specific convoy segment, or better yet, the thin aluminum skin of a fuel transport. A single perfectly dropped anti-tank grenade costing maybe a few $100s plummeted from the night sky and detonated on the engine deck of a multi-million-dollar air defense system. The explosion instantly immobilized the vehicle, creating an impassable burning roadblock. The drone operators then flew to the rear of that same segment and disabled the last vehicle in line. In a matter of minutes, an entire battalion was trapped. They could not move forward, they could not reverse, and the mud prevented them from turning off the road. They were completely boxed in by the burning wreckage of their own comrades, transforming a highly trained mechanized unit into a stationary target gallery waiting for sunrise. As the sun came up, the trapped Russian units faced a new, infinitely more terrifying problem from above. The small commercial drones were just the scouts. The real executioners were the Bayraktar TB2 unmanned combat aerial vehicles. These Turkish-made drones loitered thousands of feet above the battlefield, completely out of range of the disorganized, immobilized Russian air defense batteries. The Bayraktar operators, sitting safely in bunkers miles away, stared at crisp, high-definition thermal feeds showing miles of clustered stationary targets. They did not shoot randomly. They actively hunted for high-value assets, scanning the trapped column for electronic warfare vehicles, mobile command posts, and vital supply trucks. A laser-guided micro-munition would silently drop from the drone, taking several seconds to reach the ground before obliterating a command vehicle and vaporizing the officers inside. The psychological pressure on the Russian conscripts was absolute. They were trapped in a frozen metal box on a raised highway, surrounded by impassable mud, waiting for an invisible sniper in the sky to vaporize them without a single second of warning. The invaders' technological superiority had been completely inverted by a cheaper, smarter, and infinitely more patient adversary. Desperate Russian commanders attempted to alleviate the pressure by forcing their engineering units to bridge the surrounding rivers and find alternative routes through the dense forests. But the geography itself had been weaponized against them. Ukrainian forces had already systematically blown the bridges ahead of the convoy, turning every river crossing into a lethal funnel. When the Russian pontoon bridge layers moved up to span the icy water, they stepped directly into pre-sighted artillery kill zones. Furthermore, the Russians were not just fighting the Ukrainian military, they were fighting the entire population. Every civilian with a smartphone hiding in the tree line or watching from a farmhouse window became a forward observer. Grandmothers and teenagers were uploading the exact global positioning system coordinates of the Russian engineering vehicles to a secure digital application developed by the Ukrainian government. Within 2 minutes of a Russian pontoon truck parking by a riverbank, a Ukrainian artillery battery miles away would receive the precise firing solution on their tablets. The first artillery shells would scream out of the sky and obliterate the bridge-laying equipment before the Russian engineers even had time to unhook the cables, permanently severing any hope of an alternate escape route. The final nail in the operational coffin was the catastrophic failure of the Russian military communication network. The advanced encrypted digital radios the invasion force relied upon were highly dependent on cellular towers and line-of-sight relays. But the Russian forces had proactively destroyed the local Ukrainian cellular infrastructure, inadvertently sabotaging the very network their own encrypted phones required to function. Stripped of secure communications, desperate unit commanders were forced to use cheap, unencrypted civilian walkie-talkies or stolen Ukrainian cell phones to coordinate their stalled units. This was the electronic equivalent of shouting their exact coordinates through a megaphone. Ukrainian signals intelligence units listened to every panicked transmission in real time. They triangulated the radio emissions to pinpoint the exact locations of high-ranking Russian generals who had moved to the front of the convoy to manually untangle the traffic jam. Once a general's transmission was geolocated, Ukrainian software seamlessly passed the coordinates to the artillery kill chain. A precision strike would rain down on the command vehicle, decapitating the unit's leadership and plunging the trapped soldiers further into chaotic, directionless paralysis. With their officers dead and their radios compromised, the 40-mile column ceased being a military formation and devolved into a frozen survival camp. The mechanical toll of the sub-zero temperatures compounded the disaster. Diesel fuel is notorious for gelling in extreme cold, turning from a combustible liquid into a thick, useless wax, if not properly treated with winterizing additives. The Russian supply chain had entirely failed to distribute these chemical additives. Engines that had been idling for days simply choked and died. Desperate to escape the freezing metal coffins, small pockets of Russian infantry abandoned their vehicles and attempted to advance on foot toward the suburban towns bordering the highway. They expected to find shelter and warmth. Instead, they walked directly into close-quarters urban ambushes, artillery, and ground spotters. For a brief moment, the skies went dark. But the Russian electronic warfare doctrine was built to fight a centralized, conventional military, not a decentralized network of tech-savvy insurgents. The Ukrainians instantly pivoted to encrypted commercial messaging applications and low-Earth orbit satellite internet terminals. They utilized a custom-built artillery coordination software known as GIS ARTA. Think of it as a rideshare application. But instead of calling a taxi, a forward observer drops a pin on a Russian tank. And the software automatically assigns the target to the nearest available artillery battery, mortar team, or combat drone. The Russian jamming arrays were completely bypassed. Within seconds of a Russian electronic warfare truck emitting its massive, highly detectable jamming signal, the GIS ARTA software triangulated the source and dispatched a firing solution. The very systems designed to protect the convoy were essentially broadcasting their own execution coordinates to a highly lethal automated kill chain. The cumulative effect of these overlapping failures transformed the invasion force into a graveyard of shattered logistics. Thousands of vehicles were abandoned intact, left to sink into the Ukrainian mud as starving conscripts fled into the forests or surrendered to local farmers. Time for the international community to realize the Ukrainian military was not going to collapse. Time for Western nations to pivot from offering verbal support to airlifting billions of dollars in advanced weaponry. The aura of invincibility surrounding one of the largest armies on the planet evaporated on a single stretch of highway, replaced by the stark reality of burning diesel and shattered armor. The tactical paradigm of modern warfare had fundamentally shifted in real time. For decades, military planners operated under the assumption that overwhelming mass and centralized firepower would inevitably crush a smaller defending force. The highway to Kyiv proved that an accumulation of armor is completely meaningless if you cannot fuel it, communicate with it, or hide it from the sky. The Ukrainian defenders did not need to destroy thousands of vehicles to stop the advance. They only needed to destroy the logistical tissue connecting them. A multi-million-dollar main battle tank requires a continuous umbilical cord of diesel fuel, spare parts, and mechanical expertise to function. Once small, decentralized units armed with commercial drones and portable missiles severed that cord, the tank was no longer a weapon. It became a multi-ton steel tomb. The greatest threat to the 40-mile convoy was not a massive opposing army, but rather the terrifying efficiency of a highly motivated, technologically adaptable defending force that realized a giant can be bled to death by 1,000 tiny, precise cuts. The operation planned to display the terrifying might of centralized military mass instead became the ultimate case study in how bad logistics, terrible maintenance, and pure arrogance will turn a world-class army into scrap metal. As the logistical collapse accelerated, surviving Russian commanders desperately attempted to consolidate their remaining armor into fortified defensive perimeters around occupied suburban villages. In the town of Novobasant, a company of T-72 main battle tanks formed a steel wall, their barrels trained on the tree line. The tank crews believed their explosive reactive armor and overlapping fields of fire made the intersection impenetrable. They were preparing for a conventional mechanized assault that was never going to come. Instead, a Ukrainian special operations team operating entirely in the dark utilized a thermal-equipped hexacopter to hover exactly 1,000 feet directly above the intersection. The drone did not drop a grenade. It dropped a specialized thermite charge directly onto the engine deck of the lead command tank. The thermite burned at over 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, instantly melting through the steel grating and igniting the internal fuel lines. The engine compartment erupted into a blinding white fireball, completely ruining the night vision optics of the adjacent tanks. As the panicked Russian crews traversed their turrets to find an enemy that was not on the ground, the drone operators relayed the exact coordinates of the illuminated intersection back to a concealed artillery battery. The defensive perimeter was no longer a stronghold. It was a perfectly lit bullseye. Exactly 90 seconds after the thermite illuminated the target, the first barrage of 152mm artillery shells screamed out of the night sky. The Russian tank commanders had parked their vehicles less than 30 feet apart, a fatal error in spacing that maximized the devastating effect of a centralized barrage. The first high-explosive shell detonated perfectly between two T-72 tanks, sending a shockwave of shrapnel that instantly shredded their external fuel drums and sheared off their communications antennas. But the true catastrophe occurred when a precision-guided shell found the turret roof of a third tank. Russian main battle tanks utilize a mechanical carousel autoloader positioned directly beneath the crew compartment, storing up to 22 rounds of highly explosive ammunition in a circle. When the artillery shell punched through the thin top armor, it ignited the propellant charges in the carousel. The resulting catastrophic ammunition cook-off generated an explosion so massive it ripped the 12-ton turret completely off the chassis, launching it over 50 feet into the air. The shock wave from the flying turret knocked the adjacent infantry to the ground and triggered secondary explosions across the entire staging area. A fortified position designed to hold a town had been completely vaporized in less than 3 minutes by an enemy they never even saw.